And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you today. And thanks for joining us here as we're into November and moving along toward, my goodness, the winter months of real estate, the two slowest months, traditional slowest months of the year, Joe. But there's still a lot of activity going on. I mean, it's amazing to me.
I sparked a fire in my fireplace just briefly this week, but it felt really nice. It was feeling like that time.
All right. Well, today joining us here in the show, sitting between us is Mark Root. Mark is the owner of Oregon Custom Roofing in the Rogue Valley here, and has been a roofer. He's telling me all his life. Your job has been a roofer.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. How does one start to get to be a roofer? Because I think, Joe, guys who do that, first of all, are special guys to get up and take that hard work on, because it's a lot of hard work. How did you actually get started on doing it, Mark?
Well, basically just needed a job and had a friend that was in roofing and said, I can get you a job. And I was always a hard worker when I was younger. So,
yeah. And
just kind of took off from there, got the experience I needed, and
started your own business and got your own business going today. That's, those are entrepreneur stories, of doing that, being independent, and a contractor. And tell us how busy.
I was going to say, and it's got to be a good time.
I would say I think you're right. You're busy. Tell us what the economy is doing or what you're up to.
Oh, it's been very busy. Last couple of years it really picked up, and this time of year especially, you get all the people that realize the weather's turning and they have problems and need to have it evaluated and taken care of. So it's more than I can handle as a small business, unfortunately, but we do the best we can.
Mm-hmm. People call and you say evaluation, because you really, look, we all got our roof, and you had to put a new roof on your house, right? Since you've owned yours.
09.
I had to put a new roof on my house, as well. So if you own a place average of 9 years or something, you're going to probably need to put a roof on. So, but evaluation of a roof is the key, isn't it, Mark? Or how do you look at around a roof, and what do you evaluate when you look at them? I'm always curious.
Well, a lot of times you look at like composition, a granule loss. Sometimes the shingles will start curling up, and that's from years of heat, and the seal downs will break down.
Okay.
You you clean debris off, obviously, and keep the moss under control and stuff like that to maintain them. And then you go according to the age of the roof and the life expectancy a lot too. Sometimes
now people helps. In general, I hear about 50-year roofs. And I've had all different people, I've asked about these. 50 years is a long time sitting on the top of a house. 50 years. Is there such thing as, people say there's no such thing as a 50-year roof. Is that your experience, or what do you see of that?
It's a lot of things that'll add up to whether it'll last 50 years. A lot of it's ventilation and vapor barrier and installation, and the type of product, obviously, like a metal roof, your paint's going to fade and oxidize and stuff, but if it's installed right, it'll last basically forever. Whereas a composition shingle, every manufacturer's had one problem or another sometimes with them, where they don't get the full life expectancy. A lot of times the warranties are prorated, so they know you're going to get at least a certain amount of time out of them, and then they prorate your life from there out of them.
Yeah. So I put, I think, a 20, 30-year roof. What do you recommend for people doing that? Because again, what's the difference? I guess is the difference just the way it's installed of a 20-year roof, or is it the materials different versus the 50-year, or is it just the way it's installed, or the materials used?
It's a lot of it's the material. The manufacturer, what they're going to warranty it.
Yeah.
There again, they have heavier products like a presidential shingle that's supposed to be a 50-year, and then the 30-year, like you're talking about, is pretty much a standard laminate shingle. That's what most people go with for their price and the life expectancy. It's probably the most popular and most used out there.
It's the most used. Do you see a lot of I'm trying to think of shingle roofs. I mean, the wood roofs are gone, right? Those are like. Do you ever see any of those anymore?
It wasn't a problem until my roof had reached its end of its age because it was a wood shingle roof.
Well,
like
mine was too.
Well,
my original roof, mine was too.
Boy, they tell you, they can even tell the layman who does not know roofs that it's time.
Yeah.
But I don't see very many of those around anymore. Do you?
No, you know, years ago, 40, 50 years ago, they were old growth timber, nice straight grain.
Yeah.
And they would last a good amount of time if you maintained them. And nowadays, the material they're using, they don't hold up.
Yeah. They just don't hold up.
Yeah, and most of the time, the only time I put them on is usually for historic buildings, federal government, stuff like that, you know, want to keep that look.
That certain look, I guess that's true, isn't it? But most of the time you just wouldn't see them.
And if the products aren't what they were, if you start with something less than par, just like with recording media, that's what you're going to get in the end as well. It's just not going to, there's no way to fix that or to mitigate that.
So I mean, I'm trying to think of what would be, because someone's going to say, if I'm going to come up to Mark and I'm going to say, I want you to put a new roof on my house, and you're going to say to me, you want a 20, 30, or 50-year roof? Is that what you're going to say to me?
Yeah, you know, what's important, the looks or your cost. You know, a lot of people, they worry about the expense because it is a big expense.
Yeah.
A lot of people, the looks do definitely mean a lot.
Yeah.
It's one of the first things you see when you pull up and look at the house. So, you know, it's just a lot of different things that.
Yeah. Well, I always wonder, you know, what the types and styles when you walk into like a Home Depot or wherever you go to look at stuff or magazines. You see roofing. You didn't used to see this years ago, right? We didn't have stores that had roofing. You didn't see that. And I see decorative stuff. I see all sorts of, I guess, new kinds of designs that are out there. Are those okay?
Well, I'm kind of an old school guy. I like stuff that's been out there a while. It's proven itself because there has been a lot of products that's come and gone over the years.
Okay. Yeah.
For example, like you're talking about the wood shingles and wood shakes, they actually had codes in a lot of building subdivisions that you had to either have wood shakes or tile roof.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so people were trying to get away from that because the costs started getting so expensive and they didn't hold up. That they had like a fire-free or a Sinwood product that was a concrete fiber product, and this was supposed to be a 50-year roof, last forever. They found out after about 5-10 years, especially where you cut in valleys and stuff like that, it would just soak up the water and act like a sponge. And
right.
10 years later, they looked like a bunch of cardboard falling apart. And,
oh my goodness! Yeah.
And unfortunately, the manufacturers would go out of business and their bond would be gone, and people pretty much were looking at a new roof.
Are tile roofs fireproof? Is that correct?
I know you're not asking me.
Well, I looked at you, but I know you don't know the answer. Are tile roofs fireproof?
Yeah, they have a Class A fire rating. A lot of times the fire rating can depend too on the underlayment you use. The old asphalt felt paper didn't have the fire rating as like some of the newer stuff they have now. And
okay, but a composite roof, because I'm trying to think people around fireproofing your house. A composite roof, though, are they fireproof also? Aren't those supposed to be fire resistant?
They do have a Class A fire rating.
They do? Okay. Yeah. All right. So if you lived in a rural area, you're trying to improve your house or your property, either one of those you're saying would generally work, tile or a composite then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
See a lot of tile around our area?
Well, no, I don't see a lot of tile around, but I'm wondering
where
if you're
are you showing homes that I don't know about?
Well, I see a little bit, but I'm saying, my neighbor in Ashland had tile roof, Are we going to see more of it? I guess that's the question. Do you think we're going to see more tile?
It's not real popular around here. I'm
just
not a real big
top
tile guy. It's real popular down where you don't get a lot of rain, put it that way, because tile roofs, you're dependent on your drying, your vapor barrier. They actually have waterways built into them, and you have to put waterways in your battens.
Okay.
So the problem with tile roof is the old felt paper especially would burn out in 30, 40 years, and then your roof wasn't waterproof anymore.
It was just
so your lifetime tile roof wasn't working properly.
Okay.
And I imagine that's a big fix with a tile roof too.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's less rain, that's why in the Southwest,
Arizona,
that's all you see, right? I mean, that's pretty much all you see there in that kind of thing.
I'd like to have a tile roof someday.
In your villa, when you're going to get a villa, you can do that,
especially after the election results.
Yeah. Well, so go back. So, by the way, we're talking with Mark Root from Oregon Custom Roofing today on the Real Estate Show about roofing as we get ready for winter. What can you do to your house, especially your roof? Now, winter usually means what's the four letter word for bad stuff on the roof in winter? Moss, right? I mean, let's face it. Everybody has moss on their roof, right? Tell us what a problem that becomes.
But you're on that north side.
Oh, why that's such a problem?
Well, it's holding moisture, and anytime you're holding moisture on the roof, it can find other ways through the shingles or whatever the case may be, and it's just adds weight and to the structure because it can retain the weight of the moisture and stuff. It can actually get in between the shingles and separate them, over a period of time if they get real bad. So
well, I have seen some really, really bad roofs with lots of moss on them.
Yeah.
How do you protect the house from moss? Can you do that?
Well, they have products out there. Most of the shingles now have an algae-resistant shingle,
okay,
like a Scotch Guard or something built into it.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, okay.
But it's how long that lasts. They say 10 to 15 years on most average shingles. And if you have a real bad problem with a lot of trees and stuff,
you're going to get it.
You can
no
still
matter
get
what.
it. They have a zinc strip and different things that you can put on up at the ridge cap too that helps.
Do you ever get, I'm sure you get calls of people coming look at my roof and the whole thing is just covered in moss. I mean, you see moss everywhere, right?
Yeah, I've actually had people call with leaks, and we've removed the moss and debris, and it's taken care of the leak.
And the leak stopped. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of it. It does retain water, and it certainly grows now as it gets moisture around. How do you remove it? I guess, okay, you go ahead.
Water is your
we know
number one enemy of your house and the longevity of your house. So having these little sponges that soak up water and sit on your roof, probably a bad idea. That's basically what the moss is.
Yeah. So there are people that remove moss, right? You don't do that, Mark. But there are people that remove moss.
We do it.
You do that too. Okay.
I'm not one of these guys that get up there with a pressure washer and hit it with 2,000 pounds of pressure.
Because that would destroy the stuff on the composite, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it can take the granules off the surface of your shingle, and if you got an older roof, then it's not very good. We usually just take a stiff bristled broom, and then you can put a product on there to kill it, and sometimes you have to come back in a few weeks or a month later and do it again.
Well, I remember taking the moss off of my roof, with exactly that thing with a big brush. I got up there. I shouldn't, advise people to get on your roofs, but that's exactly what I did because there was a lot of moss on there. How am I going to get it off? Someone's got to go up there and get it off,
right? Mitigate
because it was going to be a big doo-doo when trying to sell my house if it had moss on the roof. As we say, a roof in every transaction seems like in real estate, a roof is going to play some role in the transaction. And boy, you want to be prepared for it. That's really the key to the whole thing, right?
I get to know the roof of every home I show just in case I'm going to make a play.
We got a break coming up here. We're coming back after the Real Estate Show after this. We're with Mark Root from Oregon Custom Roofing. The Real Estate Show, don't forget, check us out at realestateshoworegon.com for our website and all of our past shows. We are coming right back after this. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show here on KCMX News Media 880. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you today. We're with Mark Root from Oregon Custom Roofing, who's been a roofer all his life. Started as a roofer, and as a pretty darn good expert on roofs. And Mark, saved one of my transactions. We had a roof situation, Joe, where Mark had to come in and fix the whole thing. We had to take a metal roof off, put a new one on in a park, and he did a great job and that kind of thing. So this guy knows what he's talking about when we talk about roofs. Anyway, so just wanted to tell you that we talked about real estate last week. Of course, the MLS stats are out, and let me just show you these. And I don't know if Joe can get a picture of that or not, but this is last week, Jackson-Josephine County. Okay, new listings. We're up again, and did you notice they're up 23% from a year ago on the MLS in Jackson County? 2,200, more than 2,200, Joe, are there. Closer. Closer. Oh, anyway, if not, then I can't read it. Never mind. Pending sales down a little bit, still 71. That's healthy. Closed transactions in the 50s for the last few weeks. In Josephine County, pretty similar. Not a lot, but new listings. Again, 23%, over 2,200 listings now, which is really amazing.
And I showed you my property tax bill that about floored me in Southwest Medford.
Yeah.
A $27,000 gain from the year before. So
real market value is up 11%. There's activity going.
We're seeing it. Yep.
It's getting your places up top and get them ready to go. And we talked last week, and then we'll get back on roofing just to tell you again. The market is a two-market situation here right now. If you have a listing at 525, 540, 550, at 500,000 and above, you have an 8.5 month supply of inventory. If you're below 500,000, it drops to 3.4 months. So your chances of finding a buyer at below 500,000 there, if you're sitting at 525, more than double as a result of the price range and the market snapshots that we talk about. The luxury market still with 21 month supply, 17 month supply. It's still the lower prices. That's where the activity is, and that's where the month supply of inventory is down. So we've got two markets, above and below 500,000. We have two markets here.
That has changed somewhat because the inventory was pretty tight all the way up into the 4s and towards 5, probably 6 months ago,
well,
9 months ago.
Well, remember, we've had more inventory has come on. And a lot of that inventory has been in the luxury market. It's been in the high market range, and not very many buyers are there. There's some, not very many of them, as you know, with 2-year supply at the $1 million plus range. Anyway, that just kind of gives you what's kind of going on around this place. So it's a crazy market. That's all I can say.
I wonder if more people or less people want to move to Oregon after our election. I can't figure it out. That'll be an interesting stat to track.
Well, by the way, I saw this week a wonderful program with Rogue Retreat. You know who runs the tiny village, Hope Village, that we had them on our show recently, and their expansion and what they're doing. What a success story that is, and other communities, including Ashland, are trying to model themselves after that. That may be a solution on this homeless issue that is so dogging many of our communities.
And
that's a whole other story.
They have the city council on board big time with that.
That's a whole other story.
That's why it's succeeding.
Anyway, so Mark Root is here talking roofs here on the Real Estate Show today. So moss, and we talked about that, how to get rid of those, how to do that. It's going to be there. Lives of roofs and things like that. When you go around and evaluate, what are the biggest things, the problems that you see that generally are going to come back and haunt somebody when you go around and evaluate roofing?
Unfortunately, you do see a lot of improper installation.
Improper installation.
Stuff not flashed right. You'll see a lot of mastic and caulking and stuff where people have tried to seal stuff up that way instead of flashing it right. The age of the roof, or like say not maintaining it, not keeping the debris and moss off of it, and keeping your gutters clean and stuff to keep the water flowing off there like it should.
So water damage actually does that. Now, when you talk about flashing, okay, because I've gotten in arguments with people over flashing, okay. Explain to people why it's important, or what flashing is, and why you should not skimp on that, right?
Smaller detail with big potential damage.
Just tell us that way.
Well, 90% of your leaks are probably going to come through a protrusion through your roof, like a chimney, a skylight, air vent, pipe flashing, stuff like that. Because that's where a lot of times you get people that are not qualified to do that, and it's just not put down right, and then you'll see them try to seal it with mastic, and that's just a temporary fix. So after a while, that'll harden up and crack.
That's what people do around rings, don't they? Yep. Those rings on the roof, vent rings.
The neoprene flashing around.
That's a type of flashing too. So flashing is really to keep water away from being able to come into the house, right? That kind of thing.
It terminates the roof to the chimneys, the skylights, and stuff like that.
I see lots of damage on where the roof comes down to the end. It connects into maybe the gutters. Yeah. I see lots of damage right on there, right?
Gutters overflow and
just water damage, right? Maybe the leaves or whatever. I see a lot of that. It's really easy to spot.
Well, a lot of the housing, unfortunately, when they put the new roof on, the guys didn't use edge metal. That's where we see a lot of it. The edge metal goes underneath the shingles and down over the sheeting and into the gutter. So so water can't wick in between the shingles and the gutters, and you know, because the plywood will act like a sponge. If there's any kind of moisture there that hits it, it'll just sucks it in.
Yeah.
And
that's like drywall does that.
Yeah. So that's a lot of it there. They don't give it the proper overhang or terminate it with edge metal. You know, you'll see it even worse on flatter roofs. The steeper roofs, normally the water will run off a lot easier.
Water runs off easier on a steeper roof, but they're also harder to maintain and care, right?
Yeah.
you give up probably one for the other there, but
well, what a great deal though to have somebody who really knows that top to bottom, so to speak, to come by to do the job that maybe they can get done right first time. And I'm sure you see that there are different levels of craftsmanship and just attention to detail, attention to work, and that's why that your experience and knowledge of doing it right the first time is just so much easier, and have to come back and do it or deal with it otherwise. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you would see installation. If it's not installed properly, it's not going to last for 20, 30, 50 years. That
Mark could probably see it in about 2 seconds, just taking a peek.
I actually saw someone putting on a roof they just put the new stuff over the old shingles.
Yeah.
And I thought that's kind of odd. And is that something you shouldn't do that, right? I mean, I
don't recommend it for the little bit of money you save of not tearing off the roof. You're adding weight to the structure. Most people don't realize. You know, when you get, they used to allow 3 layers of composition on a roof. Well, when you got 3 layers of composition, that's the same weight as a lightweight tile roof, and you have to have your house structurally engineered to handle that kind of weight. That's why when you drive by, you see a lot of sags and sways in the roof. You know, that's a lot of times that's what it's caused from.
It just added on top.
Because the house wasn't built to carry that load,
Well, which think about one of those sheets or whatever that they use, how heavy one of those is, and you have you already have a house full of it, and you're going to put a layer on top of it.
Yeah,
I've seen that several times, and they go, well, it's okay, but man, I don't know. You're right. The engineering part of that house was not built for that kind of weight.
Well, the manufacturer and me are going to guarantee our work better too if we take it down to wood and do any re-nailing or replacement to have a solid deck to nail to.
Okay.
You know, and everything. So it's all the way around. I always try to recommend. I hardly do any recovers, very rarely.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't blame you. That would be kind of a weird way to do that. And I don't know how effective it would be. Right?
Get what you pay for, probably. It's probably a little cheaper, but it's probably not. In the long run, it's probably not.
Well, I know that if you're now in many cases, and the reason why again roofs are important, if you're doing a HUD home, or you're doing loans, FHA loans, they're going to require these roofs be replaced on places before they even will fund the loan. It's not, you have to time these things to come out to where the roof is done and replaced, because at certain ages, they're just going to require it to be done, right?
Yeah, I do a lot of work for the Housing Authority on their rehab program for people that are low income that need the help, and they won't let me do any recovering or patchwork. It's got to be replaced and done right for them to loan the money on the property. It's just pretty much like any loan agency or whatever.
They're protecting their investment. With the right, doing it the right way.
Yeah. Well, it is your biggest investment.
That is your biggest protector, is that roof.
And I know when I first saw the price of my new roof, you're like, you shake and you go like this, and you bite the bullet and say, I got to have it done.
And then you look at the price of your house.
Yeah,
and if it's not done right,
Before we got a break coming up here, Mark, I see a lot of metal roofing. That seems to be kind of not a new thing. It's been around for a long time. Tell us about metal roofs. I know you install them as well. Is that a popular thing, or is it a good thing? When should I use maybe a metal roof?
It's really popular, like in rural residential, and we do a lot of metal work up at Diamond Lake, Crater Lake, like that, Mount
Second
Ashland.
homes, cabins, that kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, sure, okay.
It's a really good roof. There again, you want the right installer. You want it flashed right, or you're not going to get your life out of it.
Yeah.
But if it's flashed right and put on right, they can be a great roof. It has its pros and cons, like any roof. Sometimes it's kind of noisy.
Okay.
And it does soak up the heat. It's metal. So if you have good attic space and ventilation, it's not really going to matter on the noise or the heat too much.
Okay.
But sometimes that takes into account, and Metal sometimes looks kind of plain when it's on a straight run, a gable to gable, but if you have hips and valleys, I think they look really nice. A lock seam metal roof anyway, and so it's kind of a matter of preference.
And it's probably a totally different game when you get up to Diamond Lake and Crater Lake and you get into those heavy snow areas up 5,000 feet and above.
You see lots of metal roofs up.
Totally different load that you have to deal with and conditions that you have to prepare for and have the roof ready for.
Well, I see a lot of them down. Is a metal roof cheaper than a composite roof to install? To do?
No, the lock seam metal roof is quite a bit more actually.
It's more.
It's pretty much double the cost in material.
Really? Okay.
And if it's cut up, a lot of hips and valleys and flashing work, it's more time consuming. The only time it's pretty competitive in pricing is if you have like a shake roof and you have to resheet it to put a comp roof on. Then the metal roofing becomes pretty competitive in pricing.
That might be a time to do that. Sure, when you're taking that one off and putting it down, you got to put the flashing down below it there.
Because you can go right over top of skip sheeting with metal.
And I suppose they're used a lot in commercial buildings now. I mean, commercial buildings use a lot of metal roofing.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of them. They're steel frames, steel siding, and roofing, and it is used. There's several different styles and gauges and everything of
different quality levels. You're saying, and will these last 50 years? I mean, I've heard that too. Is that metal roofs last 50 years?
As far as if it's installed right and everything, the roof itself the lock seam should last 50 years.
Oh?
The paint and it could fade and oxidize.
Well, see, 50 years, it's a long time.
If it's installed right, it's a recurring theme of today's show.
Yeah, it better be.
And that really is, and for something that you're counting on to last that long, essential, you bet.
Well, what's the one thing? Don't get any work done by a non-professional, non-licensed contractor, but whatever you do. We got a break coming up here. We're with Mark Root from Oregon Custom Roofing today on the Real Estate Show. We got one more segment to go. We are coming right back here to KCMX after this. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show here on KCMX News Media 880. Pete and Joe, the Real Estate Guys, with you. Don't forget you can check out our past shows at realestateShowOregon.com. Sign up for our weekly newsletter as well. It gives you some good market information each week there at realestateShowOregon.com. We're with Mark Root, who is a roofer from Oregon Custom Roofing today on the Real Estate Shows. We kind of finished 2 weeks of getting your home ready for winter and what to prepare. A home inspection last week with Tom Hinton. I thought that was, walk around your house, it's pretty easy to do, and you're going to see things. Get ready for that. Same way with your roof. You got to go up and look at your roof, or you're going to have to call someone like Mark to come over and evaluate it. Right? Get in front of it.
Yeah,
absolutely get in front of it. That's really the key, isn't it? Is to get in front of the stuff.
Yeah, it definitely helps to keep it maintained and keep an eye on it before you have a problem, because obviously then, you have an extra expense with damages.
Yeah. Now, I've heard of I don't know how much experience you've got. I'm just going to throw this out there. I've heard of all sorts of things like solar roofing, that's going to be the future thing, the actual shingle is going to be a solar panel and stuff like that. Right. Do you hear that too, Mark? Have you seen any of that? Or tell us what you're hearing there.
We're not quite there yet. I've had a couple of customers inquire. Tesla was supposed to have a website out and have a product, and they're having problems with it. And I've heard a couple other manufacturers that were trying to do it. It's just so involved to not only have a solar panel that's going to work, but incorporate it in a roof and keep it watertight and hold up to all the factors involved on a roof. So it's going to probably happen someday, I would imagine, but it's going to be a costly and timely thing before it happens. And I'd be a little leery that you might want to do your research if you do go to do it, because it's going to be like any new technology. It's it's going to have its problems, and a lot of times new technology is outdated in 4 or 5 years.
If you'd have told me 15 years ago I could get email on my phone, I would have thought you were crazy. But it happens. It happens fast.
Well, what a leap you take at that point when the actual material that you're buying comes solar. Most of it today, you still have to have a roof, and when you install solar on your roofs, you still have to punch into the roof itself, to install that stuff.
And
so
down at SOU, there's a new outdoor building for the outdoor program that's been built near the new Lithia.
Whole thing doesn't,
And I wondered why it took so long to build a building. It was because it needed that structural support for all the panels up above, and the digital media center is going to pull electricity from those solar panels right there, right across the parking lot from us on campus.
Well, I mean, I've seen things installed on roofs and that kind of thing from there, but still the basic premise, your basic roof has got to be in good shape in order to do any of this stuff.
Whatever kind of roof
I wouldn't. You're right. The solar stuff is still a few years away. It's not. You're right. It's not been tested yet. So we'll see how that goes. Probably as we get, as we head into winter, and what's ahead. I think the biggest thing. Should I get my roof done? Mossed out? Can I treat it before the winter? Or it doesn't even really matter, does it? It's just keeping it clean.
Well, moss does like to grow in a moister climate in the time of year and everything. So in the summertime, usually it's kind of dormant. So
yeah,
a lot of times it comes off pretty easy when it's in that state, and in the wintertime.
And we see lots of gutters around your roof. This is really a good time to clear your gutters out. I can't tell you how many places we see when we go around showing properties where the gutters are just chock full of leaves. And I mean, I can just see water damage. Where's that water going to go?
Doesn't help your curb appeal at all.
Even if you're not even selling your house, get rid of the leaves because they're dangerous, and dangerous because it's going to cause water damage. And we know from our past shows that's the most expensive repair job there is water damage, and look how different ways you can find it.
And it's not good when it spills over the gutters, clogs, spills at the corners of your house and pools. No. That water finds its way underneath to your substructures, and bad things happen.
That debris gets really heavy too when it gets wet, so it can actually pull the gutter away from the edge of your roof, and then you've got damaged gutters you got to replace.
Yeah. I mean, you can even get the
whole system's got to be be tight for it to be right. Yeah.
You can blow leaves off of your roof. You can blow leaves, with your blowers out of the gutters and things.
You go telling people to get up on their roof. No, these things at 60 years old. There we go.
Just the ladder. Don't get up on it. Anyway, well, it just makes sense. I mean, the reason is, we take a roof for granted. I mean, we do.
Almost,
we really do. It's there, and you don't look at it, and then all of a sudden, you don't want it to all of a sudden here's something water coming through, or because you haven't taken care of it, and that's really what we're
and what's one
today.
of your pet peeves is deferred maintenance, and it will catch up, and it will get you before you get out of your house.
Well, and one of the things Mark's
not been in front of that.
I mean, I see lots of times you go along and there's missing shingles off a roof. I mean, I see a lot of that, and you say that is a sign of what?
Well, a lot of times it's either improper nailing or it's the age of the roof. The composition has a seal down on it. And as it gets older, it hardens up, just like the mastic product would be when they use it. And the wind will catch the shingle and lift it up and just rip it right off. Sometimes.
And so people say to me, "Oh, you can go replace the shingle." Can you do that? Does that solve it, or is it not?
If the roof's not too old, you can do some repair work sometimes and be okay. And you just tab the shingles down with a, mastic or a product to help seal it down. And but if the roof is getting up there in age, you're probably looking at having the same problem reoccur.
You need to, okay, so if you're looking and you got shingles missing, that's a sign you need to look at replacing it, right? Because if someone's going to come along and buy the place, and you see that, you're going to replace it anyway.
Yep.
I mean, it's going to be
before I move in, or before they're going to finance. My loan's going to finance me.
And that's really what we're about. Be prepared, be ready, and get ahead of it, so you know what to expect. And a roof is just as important as the other things we talk about. Is the dining room and the kitchen. that kind of stuff. The bathrooms. Roofs can kill a deal quicker than you may ever imagine.
They were one of the bigger ticket items that we deal with in repair negotiations and that type of. Back and forth.
Yeah. Well, Mark, we're almost out of time, but I really appreciate, it's good to hear that you're busy. Roofing, is something that is required. I know you have difficulties, you say, hiring people. Is that still a problem for guys, isn't it?
Well, yeah, good quality, reliable guys are hard to come by. So fortunately, I have a foreman that's been with me several years.
Yeah, good for you.
Try to treat them right and keep an eye on things. And I'm a smaller company, so I think, we keep a better eye on things too that way, then doesn't get out of hand. So, but yeah, that's a problem to try to keep up with the supply and demand when trying to find the right employees when really busy.
Well, you're not alone in that.
That's in all the trades.
It's in everywhere around us. And you're right. When you find some people, boy, you take care of them because you can do a lot of things, and you can say you're busy and there's lots of activity going on. So I appreciate that and wish you well. And you can find actually Mark. You can Google Mark. How can someone get a hold of you, Mark, if they want to talk to you?
Well, you can email me at orcustomroofing@gmail.com. We have a website at OregonCustomRoofing.com.
There you go, huh?
We're usually pretty easy to find.
You can Google you and you'll find you. And again, Mark comes out and does a great job. Like I say, saved a deal for me, and which is what you need, because there's so many things out there that can make a real estate deal go sideways. Don't let the roof be one of them.
And one of the
clean it, clear it, whatever it is. Be realistic with it. And if you're in doubt, have it evaluated.
And if you have problems, know that you have an agent who knows people like Mark that can really get it done right and take care of you and get it done for you.
All right, Mark, good luck to you, buddy. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
That'll do it for the Real Estate Show here today. Thanks for being with us here on KCMX. We'll be back next Saturday, same time again as well. Talk about watersheds and getting ready for winter as we move along here towards Thanksgiving. In the meantime, have a great week. Thank you all, and God bless you. We'll see you next Saturday here on the Real Estate Show.